Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. I'm back to the Grief School. Today is Monday, our 10 a.m. live on YouTube. And sorry, but I was having technical difficulties. I guess because I haven't been here in a while, things started disconnecting. But we're all good. We're all good now. Today, I want to talk about is grief private? One of the things that I've been hearing recently is people say things like, grief is individual. This is private. You can't teach us how to do this. This is private. And so I wanted to address that today because I believe that two things can be true. I believe that there are two things that can be true. And I believe 100% that your grief is private. I believe that your grief is private to you. Here's the other thing that I believe. I believe and I teach that grief is unique and individual. Grief is unique and individual to you, right? And so I think that people hear me talking, they hear me talking about grief, and they think that something that I'm saying is that I understand your grief. Here's the truth. I don't understand your grief. I don't understand your grief. I don't understand the grief that you had. Hey, Mary, good morning. I don't understand the grief that you have with your person. I believe that grief is unique and individual to you, period, right? So as you are grieving your person, that's unique to you. So here's you, here's Bob, and here's Carrie. Both of you have a relationship with Carrie. Both of you love Carrie. Both of you walked this journey with Carrie, and Carrie dies. Carrie is gone. And listen to me, here is you. Carrie, Bob has no idea what you are feeling for Carrie. He has no idea because your relationship was unique and individual to her. So is grief private? Grieving is private, but grief is not private. And that's the thing that I want to talk about because we have to make space for it. I've been hearing a lot of people say lately, it's unique. You don't understand. You can't help me. You can't teach me. You're right. I don't understand your grief. Can I help you and teach you? 100%. So I was listening to a video yesterday and a woman said, I believe that grief is very private. And here's the truth. I believe that people are saying that grief is private. They're quietly saying it now. They're saying that everyone is busy. No one understands my grief, that life is moving too fast. What we're really saying is that grief is happening behind closed doors. True. You're going to cry. You're going to get in the fetal position behind closed doors. And I want you to understand why people are saying that and that I don't agree with it. Grief was never meant to be private. Somewhere along the way, we stopped making space for grief. Somewhere along the way, we stopped making space for your grief. We stopped making space for your broken heart. The world is moving fast. And when that space disappears, people started carrying grief alone because we didn't have the container for it. We didn't offer the container for it. But that doesn't mean grief itself was designed to be private. It means that the world stopped recognizing your grief. The world stopped recognizing this thing called grief. And that absolutely is when things started to change. When people hear the phrase grief is private, I think what they mean by that is that stay out of my grief. You don't understand it. They start to get almost like they get offended that I would even come in here and say, hey, I understand grief. Right? Have you ever felt like you've had to hide your grief from someone? You didn't tell the truth about your grief. You were afraid you were going to make people uncomfortable. That's why they think it's private. I can't bring this out. She won't understand it. If you're listening to me right now, I want you to think about this. How many times have you had to hide your grief around in a group of people, in your friends? If you're listening right now and you're thinking, yeah, I got to hide my grief all the time, then I want to offer you a place to share your grief with me, and that's in the grief assessment. Do not bypass this grief assessment because it's great. Most people are trying to figure out that they're trying to figure out how to complete this grief on their own, but I'm willing to sit with you and talk about the grief assessment. It's a great place for us to get together and talk about grief. Okay, was my thought. Was my thought about grief, and I want to talk about that. We came into a community. We were born into a community. And let's go back into the olden days. In the olden days, right? And I'm going to talk about the community soon, but in the olden days, we were when someone was a griever, we knew that they were grieving because they wore black. They adorned a black outfit, right? Not only did you wear the black, you were expected to wear black because you were disrespectful to your person if you didn't wear black. And then we wore black during periods of mourning. So we would see someone in black and we knew she was mourning. It wasn't just a style. She was communicating to everyone around, I'm in pain, right? She was saying, I am in pain. I loved a person and he died. And all of these people would give her respect. I can only imagine that this beautiful lady, after losing her husband, would go into the grocery store and the grocer would give her free oranges. He would give her free bread. He would see her in black. He knew that her husband had died and he would treat her almost with a reverence. When someone wore black in the community, everyone understood what she was doing and everyone understood why she was doing it. This person is grieving. This person is hurting. Handle her gently. She was also expected to be in a place of reverence. She was not going to be at the parties. She was not going to be laughing. She was going to slow life down around her. And there was this time limit on this wearing this black outfit. She would be at home and people knew that she was mourning, so they would bring her food. They would check in on her and they would give her space. She wasn't expected to go to the church picnic. Her grief was recognized. Her grief was recognized. It wasn't explained. It wasn't fixed. It was recognized. And today we rarely see this. Most people go right back to work. They go back to their responsibilities. They go back to life fast. And we don't adorn black. But the grief is still there. The grief is still there. Her broken heart is still under this black outfit that she never got to wear. But now, this is how it happens. Because it happens so quickly. Because people start believing grief is supposed to be private. One of the reasons they believe that it's supposed to be private is because they don't have anywhere to lay their grief. They don't have a container to put their grief in. The container in the past was the black outfit. Where do we lay this grief now? If people could see your grief on the outside, if they could see you as mourning, if they could see you in mourning clothes, they would treat you a certain way. But because we don't go back to wearing the black, how are they treating us now? What are they saying to us now? Here's my question. Did people around you recognize your grief after the loss? Or did everyone around you expect you to go back to life and move forward? And did you do that quickly? And as you did that quickly, where did you put this grief? Put it in my pocket. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to share about it. So I'm just going to stick it in my pocket. Yep. And that's what happened. And because people don't have a place to lay this grief is one of the reasons that I created the grief assessment. The grief assessment is for you and I to get together and talk about your grief. Is your grief in your pocket? Are you hiding your grief? Are you not talking about your grief? I want you to consider doing the grief assessment. Click the link and consider doing the grief assessment. Many of you, this is the first place that you actually get a time and the energy to recognize your grief. Your grief should not be minimized. It should not be rushed. If you're carrying around a ton of grief and you don't know what to do with it, part of it is this. Part of it is this because we don't know where to put the grief. And I got to start talking about it, friends. Okay. Humans are built for community. So, how did I even come up on this as my comeback talk? I was listening to a beautiful lady on TikTok yesterday, and she was sharing about her mom. Her mom had just died. And she said this whole section in her talk was on how grief should be private, how grief should be kept private. That's what she said. I want to see if I can find it, because I actually wrote it down. I don't know if I'll be able to get to it. I should have brought it with me. She talked about grief is something private. It should be done in private. And I'm going to tell you two things I'm hearing. Grief is individual and grief is private. And the reason that I'm hearing that is because it's sort of like, don't come onto my grief. We are a community. We are a community of human. The human race is a community. Think about this. Your mom was pregnant with you. Here's little you there. She goes over to the hospital, right? She goes over to the hospital and you're born. You're born into a room that has a doctor, a couple of nurses, right? And you're born. You're the little baby and you're born in the hospital. But outside of the hospital room, there were people waiting for you. You had a community of people waiting for you. You had your grandparents, you had your aunts, you had your uncles, you had brothers and sisters. We were born into a community. You were not born alone. You were born into a room filled with people. All of these people were filled into the hospital. The doctors, the nurses, your parents. Maybe your dad was there. I'm not sure when you were born. Maybe your dad was in the room. Family was waiting outside. You came into a family. Immediately, your grandparents held you. Your parents protected you. Siblings grew up beside you. You entered a life that happened inside a community. We were born into a community. Your community raised you. Your teachers taught you. Your friends supported you. Neighbors watched you grow up. I saw one of my neighbors, bless her heart, she's still alive, and she's on Facebook, and she comments on my Facebooks all the time. She watched me grow up. From the moment you were born, people surrounded you. So here's the question. If your world is happening in a community, why would your grief pain not happen in community? Why would your grief pain not happen in community? Why would the most painful moment of your life, the moment you were expected to handle this pain, why are you expected, you think, to handle it alone? Why would grief suddenly become private? Why would you be born into a hospital with all these people, be raised by all these people, and then all of a sudden become the griever and be expected to do it alone? That doesn't even make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. But it's because we've changed. We've changed as the way that we support the griever. We've changed as a community in the way we show up with grief. Why would it suddenly become private unless you had nowhere to lay it? Unless the few times that you did try and lay it, it was uncomfortable. We are failing grievers, and we're failing them big time. Because the other thing is, this doesn't even match the humankind, the human people that we are. Okay, hey, we're all here. We're all hanging out. Oh, you're grieving? Oh, go do that shit over there by yourself. Who are the people surrounding you when you grew up? Who are the people teaching you? Who are the people understanding your pain? When you got a boo-boo, who did you go to? When you hurt your leg, were you expected to go in your room and do that by yourself? When you fell and broke your arm, were you expected to go in there and do it by yourself? No. Mom took you back to the hospital, and the same people gathered around you because we do things in community. Life changes. Life changes. Life moves on, and so does grief. And now we don't expect you to do it by itself. And it breaks my heart to hear this woman say that grief is private. I can't even tell you guys. I want to tell you this. Recently, I've been having a lot of people come into the live saying, "You can't tell us about grief. Grief is unique. It's individual to each person." And that is true. That is true. Grief is unique and individual to each person. Grieving, when you're grieving, you will probably do that in private. You don't want to sit there, you don't want to sit there with the tears and the snot running down your nose. When you go into that ugly cry, you most likely will want to do it in private. That part is done in private. For some of us, I'm on a call on a grief assessment, and grievers go there. And I am honored. I feel honored that they trusted me enough to allow their grief to be with me. Friends, I want to tell you something. This is why people come to the grief school. This is why they come to the grief school. I invite people into a structured path and help them rebuild their lives. I invite people to come in to a structured path and rebuild their lives. I invite people to find that peace again, the peace that left that day that their person died. Because for many of you, this is the first place your grief is actually recognized. And that breaks my heart. For many of you, this is the first place that your grief actually gets recognized, not minimized, not rushed. Reorganized so that it makes sense to you. If you know that you're carrying a lot of grief by yourself, come and hang out with us. We're a great group of women. We love supporting one another. We love supporting one another in the grief. Humans were always built for community. We are a community race. We are a communal human race. And grief was meant for us to do this together. Your grief was meant to be held. So you're the griever. You're standing there. You're telling your grief. You're sharing your grief. And it's my job to just, wow, I can't imagine what this is like for you. I can't imagine what your heart is feeling right now. When your heart breaks after a loss, you're in one of the most delicate moments of your life. You're in one of the most delicate moments of your life. Your world has changed. Your body feels it. Your mind feels it. Your heart feels it. And then I tell you to go in your room and do this by yourself? I'm so sorry if that's the experience you're having. The message that a lot of people are getting is this: girl, you keep it all together. You keep it all together. Don't make people feel uncomfortable. It's time for you to go back to normal. And what happens in that message is that we push the grievers into isolation. It's not that grief was meant to be private. It's that we've pushed them into the private. But grief was never meant to live in isolation. It was never meant that way. Grief was meant to be witnessed. Your grief was meant to be witnessed. Community gives grievers something powerful. When we do our grief support groups, this person over here shares, this person over here shares, this person over here shares, and this person right here has an aha moment about her own personal grief. This person lost a child. This person lost a puppy. This person lost her mom. And this one lost her dad. And there are 4 women all in the same room. And she has an aha moment based on the lady who lost her puppy. Because something she says and something she articulates makes a difference to her. She doesn't, the puppy lady doesn't understand the lady who lost her dad. She doesn't understand what her heart feels like. But you know what they do understand? They understand that grief sucks. They understand that grief hurts. and we give the container to them in that classroom. Community gives a griever something powerful. It gives the person something powerful. It gives them understanding. Community gives you understanding. Community gives you love. Community gives you love. Community gives you space. Community gives you space. And you get support for your pain when it feels too heavy. You don't even have to talk. You can just come and sit in. Because people gather after a loss, after a death, that's not accidental. But the people gathering don't know what to do next. Most of them don't know what to do next. It was always a humankind. How many times have you got a call that so-and-so down the street died and you show up? You show up with some bread. You show up with a potato salad. You show up with a ham. You go to the funeral. You bring the meals. You listen to the stories. That was always done. That hasn't changed. What has changed is the amount of time we hang out with the griever. We sit and remember the person, not to fix the pain, but to honor them, to celebrate their life, to celebrate their life with us. That's what we do. But then something happens. All of us turn around and we go back to work. We turn around and we go back to our lives. And we leave the griever in their shit to figure it out by themselves. And that's why they think it's private. And that's why they think no one else should be here, because they don't know what to do with this thing. And it makes the griever, for sure, feel like they're carrying this all alone. What does it feel like when someone simply sits with you in your grief instead of trying to fix it? It's huge. It's huge if someone were to sit with you. Just sit with you and try to understand it. And that's what I do at the grief school. I offer you a place to put this grief. I offer you a place where I can hold this space for you without rushing you. And the number one way to do that is through the grief assessment. When people say grief is private, they're usually describing a world where they feel forgotten. They're usually describing a world where they feel like things have slowed down. Their grief has slowed down and no one is giving them a space to hold it. They usually are describing a world where they're hiding their grief. Your grief will change. Yes, life changes. Your grief will change, but your space where you're putting the grief, that doesn't change. The truth is simple. Grief was never meant to be hidden. It was meant to be recognized. It was meant to be honored. It was meant to be shared. Grief. The grieving, the act of grieving, the act of crying, the act of bawling for your person, that's private. Yeah, you can do that in private. But where you're learning about this grief, where you're learning about this broken heart, that was meant to be done together. Grief was always meant to be held in a community. It was never meant for you to do it alone. So here's the deal, friends. At the grief school, I do something called the grief assessment. Click the link and go to the grief assessment. It's a great place for you and I to get together and figure out which class is best for you. Maybe you're not going to come to the grief school. Maybe you're just stuck in your grief and you need me to help you figure out a way. Do the grief assessment. It's a great way. If you're ready to start, if you are ready to start and you're like, okay, lady, I need you. I don't know what you got there, but I need you. Then you want to do processing the pain of grief. Processing the pain of grief is open. I'm opening it right now. It's been closed because we've been figuring some stuff out, but it's open. It's $97 a month. It's 12 hours a month. I do a 1-hour lecture and we do 2 hours of grief share. Friends, that's the community. I'm offering you the community. I'm telling you about the community because you were never meant to carry this grief alone. You weren't meant to carry this grief as broken. You weren't. And that's the truth. I love each and every one of you. I'm glad you guys have come here today. I'm glad that you're here and you're hanging out with me. Here's the deal. I'm going to go to TikTok now. I'm going to go live on TikTok. I was trying to figure out how to do this together, but I feel like I want to keep them separate. Mary said, you sure do. Thank you, Sharon. Exactly. Plus, Am I to grieve when I was someone no longer part of my life? Right. How do you figure out when the person is no longer a part of your life and you wanna share about them or share things that you're remembering now? It's huge. It's huge when we can support each other in our grief. I love each and every one of you. I'm gonna jump on the TikTok in about 2 minutes. All right? I'll see you there. Bye.